Now, I'm delighted to say we are now joined by Peter Cardwell, Talk Radio's political editor, fresh from watching Prime Minister's Questions, which we thought might get a little bit spicy. We thought that somebody might take the opportunity to name the BBC presenter who remains unnamed up to now.
They did not name him.
They did not. Nobody attempted to do it.
No.
But they would have had parliamentary privilege if they had done it. So tell us a bit about what that means.
Yeah, that's right. There are different forms of a legal thing called privilege, and one of them is parliamentary privilege. So it's existed since 1689, and we've had this on numerous occasions. For example, there were all sorts of allegations against a married footballer a few years ago. Someone used parliamentary privilege to tell us that was Ryan Giggs. That put it in the public domain, and it's not outside the realms of possibility that someone could do that in Parliament. They wouldn't face any legal sanction. If you or I mentioned the presenter's name today on air, we could be subject to libel action, a defamation action. There could be serious consequences for us and for this station. So that's why we're not doing it. But in Parliament it's different.
Allows people to pretty much say anything then.
Yes,
so it can be unsubstantiated.
Yes.
I mean, we had the recent case of Chris Bryant supposedly being told by, or supposedly saying to Parliament that he believed that Nigel Farage had been in receipt of some amount of money. Nigel Farage challenged him to say it outside of Parliament so he could sue him, but he hasn't.
And the thing is that we can report that in a neutral way, not saying it's correct or incorrect, that Chris Bryant has done that because it happened in Parliament. But yeah, there are different types of privilege that cover all sorts of things, but one of them is parliamentary privilege. And actually in lots of Northern Ireland MPs at various times have said this person was responsible for this murder or this IRA atrocity or whatever. But for example, Nigel Farage, Ryan Giggs, various names have come up, but so far, and MPs have been encouraged actually not to mention this presenter's name. The law changed a little bit last year in 2022
this was
in
after
terms
the Cliff Richard scenario,
exactly, in terms of naming people. And the idea sort of was, well, if you put the name in the public domain, other people will come forward. But what appears to have happened already is that this presenter's name, which is well known on social media, has other people have come forward. Further complaints have been made to the BBC, The Sun, and other journalist organisations are doing investigative stuff into this as well. But so far, the name has not been mentioned in Parliament.
And I was asking the question earlier, and I know we're going off topic here, but Philip Schofield's name came out pretty quickly. Now, some people are saying that's because he sort of volunteered it himself. Well, I'm not sure if that's true, but certainly we were talking about Philip Schofield's situation and naming him. And similarly up in Scotland, there's a guy called Hardeep Singh Kohli, who's currently being investigated by the police, who has previously admitted to doing inappropriate things with various women. His name's come out. So I'm slightly puzzled as to why this BBC presenter's name is somehow sacrosanct.
Yes, indeed. Well, it'll be interesting. I think my prediction is that some broadcaster somewhere will slip up and just say it in the same way as Matthew Wright did with John Leslie many years ago when those allegations were made against John Leslie. So This Morning presenter. So we'll see. But it is astonishing that this has been in the news cycle, major story since Saturday morning, well, Friday night, Saturday morning, and still the name is not in the public. Well, it's in the public domain, but it hasn't been said by the media.
So what happened at PMQs then? Anything exciting? Yeah,
it was pretty good actually. Angela Rayner was against Oliver Dowden. This is the last one for the summer, so they won't be back.
Was she wearing what looked like a rather unusual dress for the PMQs?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we should comment on Oliver Dowden's suit as well, just for balance. But yes, it was a slightly unusual dress, but his suit looked pretty normal. But anyway, it was definitely. She harked back actually to the last time, which was 27 years ago when the two deputies did it. Now that was the golden age of John Prescott. She quoted John Prescott, which is quite an achievement given that he could barely get his words out. But he was against Michael Heseltine, and she mentioned this, and that really set the tone. She kind of owned it. That really set the tone for the whole of their encounter. Let's take a look.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I know you're a keen historian, so I looked up the last time a Prime Minister missed 2 sessions in a row with other engagements, which was March 1996. And I'm very proud to be filling the boots of Lord John Prescott, but I think it's safe to say he's no Heseltine, Mr. Speaker. Why is it, John Prescott asked, that in Tory Britain, tens of thousands of families are facing repossession, negative equity and homelessness? And can he tell us, 27 years later, why I'm having to ask the same question?
The Prime Minister.
Well, clearly the Right Honourable Lady did not listen to my previous comments. The Prime Minister is at NATO. Of course, that wouldn't be a problem if she'd had her way. Her old boss wanted to abandon Ukraine, abolish the army and withdraw from NATO, and he certainly wouldn't be going to any summit, Mr. Speaker. it comes to house building, I will take no lectures from the party opposite on home ownership. My parents would not have been able to buy their own home if it were not for Margaret Thatcher and the reforms introduced by her government, and this government is building on those with record house building.
Mr. Speaker, I think he's taken lessons from the former Prime Minister on telling the facts. The last Labour government worked hard to dramatically reduce the number of children in temporary accommodation. But under the Tories, the number of homeless children has risen by 75%. I'm proud of our record on tackling child poverty. Does the right honourable gentleman feel ashamed of his?
Deputy Prime Minister.
I'll tell you what this government has done. We've lifted 400,000 children out of child poverty. We have introduced the national living wage, something the party opposite totally failed to do, and increased the national living wage by the largest amount ever, meaning £1,800 for working people, and cutting their taxes by doubling the personal allowance.
Quite an interesting historical note, that, I suppose.
Yes, certainly, and it actually continued later on that Angela Rayner was talking about not only child poverty, child homelessness and statistics that she was putting in the public domain. So really, slightly later in their encounter, that came back as well. And she kind of rounded it off, and I felt that she was very much in control of PMQs, I suppose, as we should call it today. Let's have a look at just the second section of what they were saying.
Mr. Speaker, what matters is what people feel every single day at the moment who are going to work and can't afford their mortgage, can't afford their rent and can't afford their bills because of this Conservative government. There are 55,000 more children without a permanent address today compared to when they took office 13 years ago. We've gone from a Labour cabinet focused on tackling child poverty to Tory ministers who won't even admit the problem. Just like the Question Time in March 1996, they can only offer excuses and not answers. Lord John Prescott said to Lord Michael Heseltine that day, "How can the right honourable gentleman be so complacent in the face of sheer misery created by his government's policies? 27 years on, why are we asking the exact same thing?"
A little bit more if we carry on. Come on, Deputy Prime.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I know there's a reshuffle coming up on the other side, but this audition for John Prescott's old job is just getting a little bit hackneyed. It is this government that has lifted 400,000 children out of poverty. The party opposite, I hear the right lady, claiming to be the party of working people, but under their policies, people can't even get to work. They support Just Stop Oil protesters blocking our roads. They support their union paymasters stopping our trains. And of course, they support the hated ULEZ stopping cars across our capital. While Conservatives get Britain moving, Labour are standing in everyone's way.
Well, quite a spirited exchange.
Certainly, and Oliver Dowden mentioning a few of the issues, that there are 3 by-elections next week, and some of the things he was mentioning at the end there, especially the ULEZ, very much a point of contention in some of those by-elections.
It is becoming one, isn't it? Because politicians are beginning to realise actually people don't want it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, very spirited exchange. I think Angela Rayner won that one. She was very much in control the whole time. But that's PMQs now. That's it until September when Rishi. Yep, that's it. So Parliament rises for the.
I was only just saying today. Soon they'll all be off, and the silly season will properly kick in
next Tuesday. So they've got this immigration thing still to get through. The bill still to get through. It's in the Lords at the moment. It'll come back. They've got other legislation in terms of levelling up. That's going through at the moment. But yes, Tuesday.
Will they tie all that up before Tuesday then?
They hope to. Anyway, they could carry it over, but they'll be back in September for a couple of weeks. Then it's conference recess as well. We've got Labour, Lib Dem.
All right for some, isn't it?
Yeah, indeed. Well, I'll be off to Liverpool and Manchester for those conferences. So there we are.
this message time, Wednesday the 12th of July. That's the last Prime Minister's questions until September.
Yes.
Unbelievable.
Yes.
Incredible.
And then Rishi Sunak.
What are all those BBC political journalists going to do?
Have a nice rest, I suppose.
Very nice. Good luck.
It's all right for some.
It's all right for some.
I'll still be here.
There's no rest for us here at TalkTV because we never stop. We're always keeping our eyes on everything for you. Peter, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Mike.